I'm so glad you could join us this morning, and I have a topic to present. Reverend Carolyn outlined for us, and the topic is where humanity and divinity meets. We look at the whole of anything, we can say, well, it has 9 parts from beginning to end, and we can break these parts into a beginning part, a middle part, and a completion part. The middle part would be what we're talking about today, that part between divinity, which is the beginning, and humanity, which is kind of the concluding part. But in the middle is that divine part, and I want to talk about that. And the whole, it's all about wholeness, because everything is whole. Beginning, middle, end, it's all one thing. And we're always connected to the whole, but sometimes we forget that we're connected to the whole. And whenever we separate ourselves from the whole and think, this is just my problem, it's my issue, or that's your issue, then you're going to have a lot of limitations, a lot of fears, a lot of unhappiness, negative emotions. Why? Because you're carrying the burden yourself, like a big suitcase on your back or something like that. And the solution is to always rely upon or draw upon your higher power. And we have access to it. As Ernest Holmes says, there's a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. And it's true, you can use it at any time. Now, there's a little story that maybe illustrates this, was touched on a couple of weeks ago. And it's a story of these waves coming to the shore. And one wave is closer to the shore than the wave behind it. And the waves were coming, and the wave that was closer to the shore was sad, it was crying, and the wave behind it was just happy, and it was easygoing. And it looked at the fan and said, hey, well, why are you crying? Why are you so sad? I'm going to die. The shore is right ahead. When I get to shore, I'm going to die. I'm going to be no more. That's why I'm so happy. The wave behind it says, oh, I know your problem. You think of yourself as only a wave. I think of myself as the whole ocean.
Wow.
And on what it takes in the middle stage. Now I'm going to break the middle stage, the stage of the deeper mind, into 3 little components, a little small trinity within the 9 stages. This little small part between thoughts and things. What happens? Because we do say thoughts become things. But what do we mean between the thoughts and things? Well, here's what I'm going to try to outline. So there's an inner passion that occurs between thoughts and things, so to speak. It's an eternal inner passion. We can call it stages of life. Stages of life are infinite. They go on and on and on. Even after our death, stages of life continue. Just like the Earth circles the sun, it's going to keep on doing that long after we're gone. It was doing that long after we were here. And it keeps going through the same cycles over and over and over. And we happen to latch on to maybe one of these cycles in our lifetime and say, oh, I was born under this sign, or I was born under that sign. Well, you lived that during your lifetime. But the truth is, the Earth keeps moving around and around, the cycles keep going around and around. So cycles are eternals, but the type of person we are is kind of mortal. It's only going to be with us 80 years, 90 years, how long we're on the planet. But when we look at these stages that we go through, this is fairly universal. And we may not think about it, but I'm going to give us kind of a mental map way of thinking about it. So the first part of the middle, when we're trying to access the deeper mind, the first part is to put your attention on the thing that you're trying to focus on. Like when we do visioning, we try to relax the ego, go into a little light state, and put our attention on some particular topic. And you have to kind of let your ego go. If you don't let your ego go, you're going to just think of all kind of stuff that you want to see happen. So the first stage is kind of letting go and letting God. Putting your attention on the daydream, putting your attention on, in a meditative way, on what's there that I'm not seeing. And if your ego, as long as you can kind of shut it up a little bit, you'll begin to see things. Secondly, it's kind of waiting for something to happen, being a little patient. Put your mind on it, but be a little patient for an image to occur. Maybe it'll occur just like that. Maybe it'll take 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. If it's taking too long, maybe something is going on, because it's possible that if you don't see anything after 30 seconds or 90 seconds, the answer is there's nothing to see. And I always like to say that nothing means something. Something means something. So whatever you get after a little period of waiting is fair game. And that can come through your extrasensory perceptions, it might come through a feeling, through something, a physical sensation, and it requires you to have faith in the divine. And so just this idea of going into oneness, being one with the things you're inquiring about, also calls upon you to be a little bit hung up. Not only in a visioning state, but sometimes as a stage of life. Sometimes we go through periods, maybe a week or so, where you have to be honest with yourself and say, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know who I am, I don't know what the answer is. And that's the truth, but it's not permanent. That's just where you're at the time. But you have to allow yourself to be hung up in this initial stage of contacting the deeper mind, because the divine is going to speak when the divine is ready, not when you're ready. And so it may take a few seconds, it may take a few minutes, it may take longer. Now, after we've gotten to the first stage in this middle stage, the second part of the middle stage is kind of an investigative part, kind of an observing part. And here is where we have been focused on the divine, we've been focused on a topic, and then we begin to receive some impressions, receive some meaning. We get an inkling of some understanding. Oh, that's what the dream says. Oh, that's what the vision says. I've been waiting for something. I think it means this or this. So we go into a deeper place of concentration, and we begin to have a little analysis, a little observation. We begin to search for, what could this mean? I saw this, doesn't mean this, doesn't mean that. That's weird. If I start thinking about that, people are going to think I'm kind of a little weird. Because if you first start having a vision, or if you tell your friend your dream, they're going to kind of step back and look at you like you're a little weird. There's meaning there, but unless you can sort out the meaning, they want to know the meaning, they don't want to know the dream. But before you get to the meaning, you got to know the dream. So this initial understanding is just trying to sort out what is this mumble jumble stuff that came. And I was listening to something on the way here, and they said there's a thin line between schizophrenia and mysticism. There's a difference. The person was trying to explain it, but that's true. If you start saying stuff, even though you're a great mystic, people are going to think, maybe you're schizophrenic. What is this going on? Now, we begin to, when you first have these impressions coming forward, to have some independent thoughts. Why? Because these are things that maybe someone else didn't think about. You're just receiving them for the first time. And you're beginning to understand things about the world that seem weird, but they're not really weird when you dig into them. And you're beginning to do what some people call is an advanced state of being, and that's to self-actualize. I'm listening to the beat of my inner drummer, and I'm following that beat. And even though my family may not like it, this is my calling, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. Now, the third part of the middle stage, again, we're still there in that middle section, but the third section of it is to, okay, I caught the vision, I have some basic ideas of what it is, I'm beginning to try to follow the beat of my inner drummer, but what does this really mean? How does it relate to reality? Yeah, I had these visions, but how can I put this in motion? How can I bring it down to earth in a concrete way? How can I integrate it in life in a way that's realistic? So this is where you begin to play the devil's advocate. Or maybe you share it with someone else, and they say, yeah, I hear you, Carolyn, or I hear you, Malay, or I hear you, what does that mean? And then you have to really defend what it means and sort it out. Then it becomes more and more real, and you begin to understand it not only in terms of a vision, but in terms of how to implement the vision, how it relates to concrete reality. So what you want to do is make the subjective objective. You want to make you want to make things fit with concrete reality, fit with something that's real, something that's established. And when you can align that interpretation that you with something that's practical, then you really understood the vision. So now that's what happens in the middle stage. Once you really understand the vision, then you can go into the manifestation stage. Before you understand the vision, you got to collect information from other people, from other things, to get something started, to get something going. It's kind of like in the first stage, which is all about attention and all about thinking. There's processes that we go through, because when we first think of things, our mind sometimes just jumps around. You ever notice that when you try to meditate on a topic for the first time, you have what they call monkey mind? Mm-hmm. It's hard to keep your mind on the subject. But if you put your attention on something you already know something about, that's easy. You can think about that easier. But when it's something you haven't thought about, it's harder to keep your mind focused on that. Maybe if you can for a few seconds or a minute, but pretty soon your mind just starts jumping around. That's why people do say, just put your attention on it. Well, it's easier said than done. But if you know something about it, then you can put your attention on it and keep it on it. So I want to bring this to a close.